My name is Duarte Morais. I'm from Portugal, but I work at Penn State for the last 11 years. I'm an associate professor of Recreation, Park and Tourism Management, and I'm the co-director of the Tourism Research Lab. Tourism development, if the form of tourism development is imposed from the outside, it does not result in long-term empowerment of those local communities. Tourism development that is endogenous, that it's with the participation, the influence of the local community, that form of tourism development tends to be more beneficial to the local community and to be more long-lasting. Almost every, or I would say probably every community has a golden period in its history. It was a time in which they thrived. They did very well, and not necessarily at the expense of the natural environment. And perhaps the challenges have changed, but perhaps we can learn on how they adapted, how they overcame challenges, and try to leverage those ways to solve the new challenges, rather than bringing solutions from the outside. But it is also important to learn from many cases at the global scale. It is a globally connected world, so we can't look at examples in isolation. In the Hualien province of Taiwan, we studied the Yami people and how they had embraced tourism development. And one interesting thing was that they had been able to choose what aspects of their culture they wanted to portray to tourists. They had a very charismatic indigenous culture, and the one thing that we found was two particular things they were keen on sharing were harvesting natural foods from the mountain. And the other aspect that they were proud of is that they had developed one of the earliest forms of fish farming. In streams, they would put twigs, some thicker, some thinner, and they have interesting areas in their villages where the tourist buses arrive and they have displays, and they go to the stream and they show tourists how they do this thing, how they had developed this long time ago, and they're proud to say that they kind of were the first people. But interestingly, they also, a lot of their history, an important part of their history during the early colonial times was they were paid to kill deer. But that aspect, even though it was a very important part of their economy for centuries, they would not want to talk about. They talked about that to us, but they did not make that part of their tourism product and their tourism image, because they felt that the bloody aspect of being in the jungle and hitting and killing deer and being with blood, that was very primitive. And they felt that was not an aspect of their culture that they were proud of. Another project that I've been involved with has been in the Lan Yue island in the eastern side of Taiwan. And so some Taiwanese, some Japanese tourists like to visit this area. It's very beautiful, very rural, and the local indigenous people are called the Yami people. The government tried to help these people improve their lives. Typical top-down, not considering the local knowledge, not learning from the indigenous ways. They've arrived actually with a Japanese colonial kind of perspective, and they built housing for them. So they built every house the same, and also the houses were propped up on the landscape with view to the ocean, which was something that these outsiders felt was desirable. The island is windswept by typhoons every year, and so the traditional houses were buried down in the ground, and they also varied in size, and more so than in size, the number of doors that they had was proportionate to the status of each family. So the government built these houses that now are eyesores, and they're not used by the local people, and they compromised the aesthetic interest of that island that was beautiful, rural, natural, and now it has a series of houses that are not being used and that hurt the tourism appeal. Local ways don't necessarily have to be preserved. Local ways need to evolve, and local knowledge is ever evolving, so we should not be so concerned with protecting local culture, because doing that museumifies it and stagnates the local culture for the sake of this word that we use in tourism promotions, that's authenticity. So behind that issue of providing an authentic tourism experience, you are in effect objectifying the local people and keeping them cute and primitive and colorful for the tourists to take pictures of. And it's in that way, it's also exploitative.